Hi and welcome everyone. This is Lavender Sky Panther. It's Monday, November 28th, 2022, and the topic for the day is called Sky Candy Floss. It's show number 175, and it's a really special treat today. We're going to take a slightly different take on things in that where all of the photos are coming from footage provided so generously and graciously by Sugar Seas over at her YouTube channel. You must go check that out. She has some phenomenal footage and just has a wondrous way of putting her videos together, including some really incredibly vibing music that matches. And she covers things like gridlines and matrices, frequencies, anomalies, sacred places, you name it, nature, tech, supernatural, energetic fields. Just, I don't even really want to say, just go over and check out any one of her videos. She's got amazing content. So she so kindly gave me a shout out the other day and found my channel, and we have just a mutual respect for what we each do, and I was so happy to discover her channel and videos. So I'm very grateful for the work that she's doing and putting out there in the world. So she happened to recall, after looking at some of my videos, that she saw a very anomalous cloud a few years back, and actually what she found reminds me very much of a cloud that I had seen a couple years back in my show number 24 called Lightning Round. And I'll get to the slides in a second, but it's just this anomalous cloud. It shows up. It looks very out of place. Seems to have its own weather system and illumination at times as well. So she noticed the same thing. And so she, was reminded to go check it out. So she featured some of her footage. And I asked her if she wouldn't mind if I took stills of her footage and do a little deeper dive, Lavender Sky Panther style, of breaking it down and analyzing it. So she was very kind and said yes. So you're going to see all of the footage comes from her video. So again, go check it out. Go check out the entire channel. And it's, to my surprise, happy surprise, it worked to just take screenshots of her video footage and then do my normal analysis. So slightly different take today. I know you're going to enjoy it. So here we go. As always, if you've watched any of my shows by now, I like to have an alternate cover slide, so see which one you prefer. This is the one I'm just going with because it seemed to match the title, Sky Candy Floss, better than the next one coming up, at least to me. See what you think. And the reason why I'm going with Sky Candy Floss is I already have previous shows called Sky Candy, like eye candy, a little play on that. And this time around, it just seemed to make sense to say Sky Candy Floss, the UK version, because I've learned that Sugar Seas has a great appreciation for Northern Ireland, so this is kind of like a UK term. And also, in digging around, I realized that, correct me if I'm wrong out there, people from Australia, good people of Australia, but apparently they use fairy floss and, of course, candy floss in the USA. So anyway, just a little fun side note there. So let's get into things. As you can see where I'm heading with this, if you look at f.8 here, we're dealing with a craft, and you'll see where that is in context with this overall cloud system. So here's the alternate cover slide, and maybe you like this one better. There's a lot going on, as you're going to see. Also, you can tell by my little highlighted annotations here. We're going to be looking at a lot of stuff in this. So here's it's just a still off of Sugar Sea's video footage. And so this is the thing that showed up in front of her. And as you can see, just with the naked eye and no enhancement on this one, we have a little bit of rosy, hint of rose color in here. And then we see some parallel lines. We see some weird smoky fuzzed out things that by now, if you've looked at my any of my videos, you're going to see where I'm headed with this. It looks like we have a craft perched on the rim here that's morphing in or out of state at letter B. Letter A is absolutely some kind of craft without even doing any detailed analysis when I see it, because I'm used to looking at this stuff by now. We've got pure parallel lines floating across, and those aren't typical clouds. Again, I've been on this planet for many decades, and these are not typical when you look in the sky. Now, this overall column kind of tower effect, it's like puddling out. I used to call these puddle clouds when it just seems very artificial in nature. This kind of, if you look at it, it looks like Plasma is what I refer to like the cloaking material, something heavier or denser than just water vapor or clouds, and it kind of puddles outward. So what these really artificial systems look like, they start to rise up vertically, very low in the sky, and then there's this like puddling out effect. Like if you poured a bottle of water on the ground, and you would just see it kind of pool and puddle out. That's what this is doing. And then you can just see there's something within it. So this is kind of enveloping another system within. And then also what you start to see is it's very symmetrical. So at D, we have like this wing poking out like a finger almost on one side, and it does the same thing on the other side. However, there's a lot of dynamic action going on within this whole thing. Now, this is an original, I say. What's really going to be wild when you watch this show is that Sugar Seas had already gone and done some really cool filters that actually I don't even have. And so this analysis that I'm doing is on top of even some really cool filters. So you'll see what happens in this kind of little collaboration here. It's a lot of fun. So here we go. So my point is, if you're new to the channel, whether you're new or returning, thank you so much for being here. And when I do enhancements just for the new people stopping by, do look at all my other previous videos to see, more in depth of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. But just a real quick little, little gist of what I'm doing is when I go to enhanced photo, so this just says original, that means I'm taking the original photo that I have and I'm only just upping or lowering a few things at attributes of the photo, such as color saturation, contrast and brightness, and maybe sharpness. That's about it. So you'll see in a minute what that means. So let's go ahead and get to it. So we're going to be looking at a lot of elements of this thing. We're going to be looking at the perimeter, mainly in this area of A and B. We're going to be looking not so much at D, although there definitely is something happening at there, D and J, but we're going to spend most of our time kind of focused more in the center of this thing as well, and of course F. So here we go. Already this is with some enhancement, again, just working with the color saturation, contrast, brightness to pull things out. We'll start and kind of give a general overview, and then we're going to get into some details. So 8.1, already we see this shadowy figure. It does look like a very straight bar. Oh, hold on one second. Okay, I'm back, sorry. A very thin cylinder with some kind of plasma at the ends, kind of wafting or wafting in front of it. I like to say wafting. And we can just see, I look at a lot of things like color signatures, patterns. There's just a lot of kind of very obvious tells the more you start looking at these clouds of what to look for. So in this case, we have like a pipe essentially, and it's got a different color signature than everything else around it, even though it's close in proximity. Then at B.1, we see something kind of emerging, and it's definitely an object doing its own thing at this cloud rim. And some of my other shows show clear examples of this. If you look at some of my earlier videos, there's one with like a rainbow craft just sitting on the rim. It looks totally different. Somebody from a different part of town emailed me a similar photo, and so it's not just that I'm seeing it or the camera's seeing it. It's visible to the naked eye. In this case, Sugar Seas has something even more solid happening in here, and you're going to really be mind expanded when we get to the slide, when we start breaking that down. Then, there's some more solid objects happening in here that I didn't even call out by letter. There's going to be so much I don't even get to in here, just, by virtue of trying to keep it a more or less concise show. I'm just kind of hitting some of the more major elements. But already we're looking at D.1. I see kind of a triangular form here with some points sticking out. Then down here at E.1, we have something that's kind of making a cross-like shape. So something looks like it's flying out of here. A little bit of a vapor trail, behind it. And then, of course, we have this F.1 as clear as day that is an object. And we're going to go zoom in on that because more is happening than even just that. And then we've got some strange things happening over at J.1. We have points here, very pronounced points. And again, looking at the color signature, it's pink here with a sharp object sticking out here. Not sure what's going on. It's kind of nebulous. It stays a little nebulous throughout the whole time back in here, but I can only suspect that's some type of craft back in there. And so let's keep looking further. Okay, now I'm going a little more extreme on the contrast and the brightness. again, just to see what else I can pull out. So f.2 still stays solid and strong. And look at this at 8.2, it's parallel, dead on parallel, same in character, you know, as this down here. Now, this is really pink, and this, as a part of the system, this floating on the top of it is staying kind of more dark and indigo or in the royal blue range. So we look at D.2, there's something definitely sitting right there, you know, kind of teardrop shaped on angle. And then look at E.2 here. It's like an arm extending out of this cloud, quote unquote cloud. I use quotes like if you look down on the lower right, I call it strange cloud and quote activities. Activity, cloud and quotes, simply for me means yes, there's cloak and craft going on, and that cloud is artificial cloud. So I've noticed with a lot of these systems, there is some mechanism pumping out artificial cloud or plasma to conceal multiple craft or one larger craft or combination thereof. Anyway, we have this arm extending out toward E.2, and then again, it changes vertical direction. It looks like a teardrop shape here as well. So in no way, shape, or form does a natural cloud have something that goes out perfectly straight and then have something come perpendicular or at a right angle to it. But that's what we have right here. And then looking over here, again, you know, we see these points. Something is going on. I'm not sure that we quite get to it further, but let's keep going. Oh, also I'm noticing there's some perfectly straight lines that are perfectly parallel, so something's going on in here as well. When I say something's going on, you know what I mean. There's something of tech and nature, something not natural going on with this cloud. All right, we're going to go actually look up at this upper right-hand corner now. And here we go. So here's that thing. We don't see too much of that little outcropping of something sitting on the rim, but we will in a few slides from now. Here again, we got that straight line across, straight as straight can be. No cloud does that. That's not a plane, not a drone, nothing that you can point and say. That's something that, you know, we can normally identify in the clouds. The scale is too big as well. Then here we go. Look at this D.3. This line is really, this angle is so sharp and, you know, more or less straight. And this one is coming across, you know, horizontal. So this thing jutting out is definitely not of a natural cloud origin. And then down at E.3, we're still getting another look of that arm coming out. It's a little bitmappy. Actually, if you're looking at this on a bigger screen, like a laptop screen, you may have to squint your eyes to kind of see more through the bitmappiness. But if you're looking at a smaller screen, like a handheld device, such as a phone, you'll probably see it okay, you know, what's going on. Now, when we look internally, look at this. We've got white, just pure white. So that's a different animal, so to speak, than everything else going on, quote unquote, in this, you know, cloud. We have at K3 and down here, these orange, more orange areas, golden areas. Those are, you know, standalone different things happening within this overall, quote unquote, system. And how is it that we have this burst of reddish pink raspberry color, and then everything else around it is regular quote-unquote sky, you know, is more blue. So this is definitely arriving with its own illumination and weather patterning, and I'm suspecting it's all artificial, and there'll be more proof coming up in the next slides. All right, so we'll go back a minute. Now I'm kind of fading things out. I'm putting more brightness on just to see if I can get any more clues of what's going on internally in this thing or really anywhere else. Again, 8.4 is holding true. That line is pretty much holding true no matter what I do with the editing of the attributes of the slides. And here we still have this bright white where nothing else is. And then we start to see this. Look again. We have a parallel line and it banks straight down. So more or less a right angle. Now over here at D.4, again, I'm kind of going to drop it after this slide, but look at this. We have what looks like plasma tufting around and hugging the shape of this, which is a solid object. Because I've noted on other shows, it just seems like some of this plasma bunches up in places when it's cloaking on objects, and it absolutely is doing it here. Look at it, it's like I don't know, like an aloe leaf, like a pointed end of a plant leaf or something. And something weird is happening here too. It looks very much like structure. So anyway, have a look, like I always say, a little more at any of these slides on your own time. The more you look in these things, the more you're going to find. And as I also say, I narrate this on a laptop screen that's a little bit bigger. If I narrated it looking at a smaller handheld device, it would be a totally different show from what you see from the bigger screen to the smaller screen. So if you have the luxury of having both running at the same time, I highly recommend you look at both and toggle your view from up looking at a laptop screen to down on the handheld, and kind of see what other new things might jump out at you depending on what scale you're looking at. So anyway, here we go. So now, regardless, we've got really white signature down here and here as well. So we know that some very specific things are happening in these areas that don't seem to be happening anywhere else. But at the same time, something very different is happening off at some of these other color signatures. All right, now I'm really boosting and changing the color saturation and contrast just to really see what we get to. Look how curious E.5 is. We get really bitmappy now, but we've got that dark fleck there, and in some of the views I can tell that is an object. We start to look again. What was white now turns a little bit golden, and we start to make out a clear shape. This is not a natural cloud. Look at, we've got more of a bulbous bottom down here and a straight line here. And then we still kind of see this outcropping object. We'll get to that in a minute. And again, look at 8.5 holding true. What the heck is it? Wish we could see it without all the plasma and smoke and mirrors, but maybe that day is coming. I think, as I've said in other shows, we are seeing more and more now evidence of soft disclosure. Some people are seeing really clear evidence. Other people are seeing more and more hints through these clouds, which I call, in some cases, sloppy cloaking, where it's almost like they're deliberately letting us see machine parts and other pieces just to give us more hints that we are seeing more than just clouds up in the skies these days. Anyway, there's plenty of evidence I have in previous shows as well. If you look at any of my previous ones with having to do with Australian skies, you will see what I mean. Okay, now here we go. Now B.6 is our little outcropping that's becoming a little more evident that that's a different animal, so to speak, than the rest of this tower cloud or puddle cloud or whatever you want to call it, wedge cloud. So we lose our A feature a little bit in this rendition or this version of the enhancement, but we still got this, red raspberry pink type thing. We've got the white, and, we still see something in this little outcropping over on this side. Oh, and also feel free to jump in and leave comments in the comment section below. If you see stuff, or if I've totally missed something and you're like, it's so obvious, why didn't she talk about that? Like I said, that's just a function of looking at different scales, and I'm absolutely saying, sure, I'm probably missing big stuff and little stuff. So if you see something fun, or you just, any of this reminds you of something, feel free to put it in the comment section below. Okay, B.7 up here in the upper right-hand corner is that little outcropping. We're still seeing little evidence of something maybe phasing in and out of state that doesn't look like any other part of this cloud. It's totally different in character. We see these points again. Look now, we see shadow and we see reflective points at J.3. And look how blocky that looks, almost like a rhombus with a sharp edge, straight edge to it. And we see little points here, so I'm still not quite sure what's going on in here, but I know typical clouds don't look like that, and they don't have little symmetrical points and things like that. Then we go down to F.3, and we still see this shape holding true, very parallel. We have something also looks like it has solidity to it over here. All right, now we're going to look at it with a different color saturation. Look at B.8. It's looking more and more like its own thing, like a craft just perched on the rim of this overall cloud system, cloud in quotes. Now look at this. When we see the reddish pinks, then we have a break, and then we have another little chunk. So a cloud can't do that. And it looks like we have some other kind of, like I said, some other craft or shape is cloaking back in here where it's this deeper indigo. But unfortunately, I don't think we get any clearer view of what's going on there. All right, now down here, F.4, we still have that straight cloak and craft, I'm calling it. And now we start to see something back in here, has some symmetry and structure to it. We're going to take a closer look at all of that coming up. And before we do, I just wanted to look over at this corner one more time, just to see if we could pull anything else out. But that's about all I get. And look at F.5, it's still there even though I really brighten this whole thing up. Okay, so now we're going to look again. B10 up here in the upper right. We see some pieces now forming this shape, whatever's going on at the top. And then look at K.10. We have a really weird shape. It's almost like this is a handle to a deep pot on the stove. Really, really weird. It has too much of a shape to it just to be a haphazard cloud. And in fact, where my cursor is over here, this looks like an independent little craft that's starting to zoom out of whatever this is, and that this is a vapor trail and it's heading that way to the right. Also, we just see something's morphing in here and changing, where I have these question marks. And look at this thing where my cursor is more vertical, and then there's a horizontal element, and then it drops down to this thing again at f.6. So it's almost like this thing at f.6 just kind of came out from something and dropped straight down, and that's the vapor trail above it. See what you think, though. And then over here, too, at j.6, we've got those weird little points again. All right, now we're going to just go in. Let me go back. We're going to look at f.6 now. It turns into f.7 because we're zooming in and doing more enhancement. So look at this thing, you know, straight edge. It's an object of some kind. And then it's got brighter white, you know, little elements. Again, I think that's just kind of like a cloaking material or plasma. And here we see it a little bit more. So it looks like it came across and then just dropped down, is what I'm guessing. Because we've got this movement. Here you see it much better. It's just arcing around. Either it did that, or this is just independent of what's going on beyond it, and it's just kind of, we're viewing it, you know, it's sticking out in front of whatever's going on behind it. It's passing in front of it. That could be too. But look how strange. This thing is almost like a light bulb in shape. Then there's a break, and then this thing comes down like this. So, and then comes beyond it and trickles down. So what do you think is going on in there? I may pose more questions than I have answers for, so again, feel free to leave comments if you're interested. So now we look at B11, and we see more and more. It's doing its own thing at the rim. We see 8.7, again, very much its own object. And then something also happening here, because this looks really strange as well. We have something bigger, I think, being obscured, you know, behind all of this plasma stuff, because these look like very specific symmetrical shapes. So now we're going to zoom in to look at that rim object. Look at this. It's got its own color signature. And now it looks like there's 1, 2, 3, at least 4 or 5 different parts to this thing. And again, this is going up an angle. This is coming straight across. Something else is coming down. No natural cloud would ever do that. We're going to zoom in on it again. So here are these little parts and pieces. You can see they're all little individual objects. At least that's what it looks like to me. See what you think. All right, then this gets really interesting. So this is Sugar Seiz's, you know, a screenshot from her video clips, and she says has its own weather system too, and I totally agree with that. I've seen so many of these things just kind of show up, and they have their own little flashing and weather system. And even the so-called lightning I caught in shows after number 24 on my channel, that I started really studying the lightning, and in a lot of cases they were even looking like round lamps, and I froze some, you know, kind of action photos, froze some, and show that there's either circular or hexagonal things that are flashing the light. It's not even bolts, and this looks really odd that she captured. Doesn't look like a natural bolt at all, and you're going to see what this is attached to in a minute. So here we go. We're going to start to kind of try to look deeper into this thing. Now 8.1, again, look, it's cyan, it's doing its own thing, sitting there on the rim, looks nothing like the rest of this thing. We've got these brighter, you know, white points in here, which are telling me that's like kind of structure being hidden. And now we'll look at this f.1, which is a supposedly lightning flash, but it's connecting into something here. So we've got to get down to the bottom of it, of what that is. So I'm going to do a variety of different enhancing on the photo, playing around with the different levels of the attributes. So here it's interesting, because even up here it looks like a triangular form on an angle with a little bit of plasma floating in front of it. There's just so much. Again, the more you look at this, the more you're going to find. And then I really, again, want to look at f.2. What is going on there? That's just not a typical lightning bolt, and whatever's going on in here isn't typical either. So here's another view, a filter that Sugar Seas had put on that I don't have, so it's really fun to see it like this. And again, we see what looks like an object here with this, what's supposed to be a lightning bolt coming to it. It just kind of doesn't match up. And then if it's going to be natural, let's just say a natural cloud or system. And then we look here, you know, and again, we just kind of see this, just looks a little too rigid just to be a natural cloud formation. So with some enhancement, we still look at D.1 now. It's just so clear and strange. But what starts to get even more strange is that this now is attached to a symmetrical shape. So for me, this is an object. This would be the front, would be the nose of whatever this kind of craft is. And this would be the back, because we have two little feet that are symmetrical. And this thing is connected to one of them. So my guess is that this is absolutely tech discharging this thing. And it's connected to whatever this is. And again, I'll call this the back end and this the front. There's also a bright white point here that we'll be looking at. And there's one over here too, and this starts to look symmetrical. So there looks like a machinery, you know, this is definitely engineered. This is an engineered shape and structure. So we'll look at it in more detail coming up. And again, what's going on here now? This is looking really dark with like plasma going in front of it and around it. Another shape here looks like it's being enveloped with some plasma. Like this is coming down this way and this is coming over this way, opposing it. Something else going on at B.1 as well. So again, this has layer upon layers of different craft going on, different cloaking technique, different technology, even up to the rim, and kind of companion craft, I think, that travel along with some of these systems, or use this as maybe like a docking or like a resting place, and they can dive into this thing, wait a bit, and then fly out of it when they want, you know, kind of like a floating docking station in the sky. That's just my guess. So anyway, we'll look at this with different enhancement. Now E.2 starts to look really interesting as well. So here we have that darker object, you know, with plasma, with a different color, kind of bluish coming over it, where our darker object is now looking black in this version. Look at E.2, it's straight, but now it has almost like a thread or something kind of effect coming out of this other little cloud down here, you know, attaching to it. So all of this is just so bizarre. So I think I'm going to zoom in now. We want to look back at this thing where this supposed lightning bolt was coming out. And then we've got that straight element with like the string coming on the back of it as well. And here we go. So again, just something isn't quite right about this. Something looks very engineered about this. Again, now we see these 2 feet that I thought were symmetrical. This one is pretty straight and blocky like a square. Now this one has a straight angle, like a 45-degree angle that goes up to a 90-degree angle straight. So this is absolutely some kind of machine part. And I even see 3 dots that could be like 3 rivets, you know, I don't know, holding whatever this thing is. So this just gets more and more puzzling the more we look in it. But here's that, what I thought was, you know, little white point with reflective, and another one over here. Now I see this could be a rim, an interior rim, like the end of a cylinder or pipe. Down here, there's a straight line, and this kind of pops up triangular, and another triangular point here. A point here. So something also of an engineered, what I want to say, something of engineered design, you know, is going on down here, because this is really straight. And then we have this vertical movement, and it comes over here again, another right angle of movement. So again, you know, natural clouds don't do right angles as far as I know, last time I checked. Anyway, let's keep going. And again, there's more going on in every photo. I'm not going to have time to get to it. So there we were. Now let's go and look at E.4. So here in this version, I was really trying to get at what's going on in D.4. So we lost our little horizontal, you know, got washed out. So now we're going to look at it though, E.5 without the washout. So here's that little straight thing. Now it's looking like a crystal, like the tip of a crystal almost. Parallel lines attached to some kind of thread. It's really weird. We're going to zoom in on it again. And, you know, there's something very tangible here, solid element, and then it just kind of goes into vapor. It's kind of hidden. but what the heck is this thing? I thought we'd get a little more clarity. There is a line. Everything is straight, you know, in parallel. So we know that's a solid object, or at least part of it is, because now this over here at the right-hand side looks like a little element that's shooting out of it, almost like if you had a gun and this is a bullet flying out. So see what you think that is. I'm really stumped at what's going on here. We're looking at it one more time. I was just trying to get as sharp as I can, you know, see what's going on with this thing. I don't have really any answers, but I do know that's not a natural cloud. All right, now this is another filter Sugar Seas had put on her original footage. And so we really see that A is something different happening up there on the rim. And look at the color, you know, of this, what I was calling plasma kind of wafting in front of this, or kind of enveloping this other kind of tower element, artificial cloud coming up. That's very, you know, clear in this view. So we're going to do some enhancements on her filter, which is really cool. And here we go. We start to see something looks organized and like structure happening at 8.1. And then we see an object here at B.1. It's not only is it kind of like a darker shadow, but I see some kind of brighter indigo or royal blue highlights back here. Almost looks like, you know, two legs of something. It's still kind of hard to tell. And look at this thing. You know, again, this arm comes down and then banks straight down. Actually, now it looks like another one coming over here and banking down. And now it's starting to look a little creepy because, excuse me, it looks almost like this is like the head of some kind of insect or something coming down, you know, over this thing. But I think that's kind of more of pareidolia, maybe. And then we start to look at something really weird happening here down at D.1. And I'll tell you why, because this starts to look like the head and a face of something. Again, it could be pareidolia, but if you bear with me, I'm going to really go in on detail on this. It almost looks like there are two eyes, and this is the face, and that would be the top of the head, and like something laying down almost like a cat, like the body, you know, down here. And then you're going to see it looks like two symmetrical arms coming out. So all of this starts to get really, really weird. So here we go. I'm zooming in on that element that I said looked like a face and like a cat body or something kind of crouched down there. And we start to see the hint of maybe an arm and almost like a Lego person's hands. So we're going to get there in a second. But depending on what screen you're looking at, there's also things that look like holes here. And the whole situation is really bizarre. And then here at 8.2 again is our weird object coming straight across. So keep an eye on this overall shape and what's going on over here. I put this here for a reminder. Get ready for the next slides because this gets really weird. So here we go. I darkened everything else out so we could get a look at what these quote-unquote arms are doing. Now look at this. This is symmetrical. It's presumably symmetrical back here too, like there's these sticks or arms. And then look at this. That's symmetrical. I mean, it's the same thing happening there and happening here. Very rigid. So that's engineered tech. No question. Now there is a possibility, I'm calling it parallel arms with claws or pincers, question mark. And then down here we see, excuse me, a triangular shape. And so, hang on one second. Okay, I'm back. And also we see weird little things dropping in front here that have brighter white, so more of a crystalline, or, you know, you can just see some other objects dropping in over here and maybe flying over here with a vapor trail behind it. But anyway, what's going on with this scene? Then we have this craft or object coming straight across. It's bright white. But this thing now is starting to get very, very mystifying. If these are arms and this is a face, you know, here, if you see that this is like eyebrows and that's the top of a head, and these would be eyes, and that's like the chin down here, and that's the body, maybe even legs back in here, and these would be the arms, then we're talking that this is some kind of organism, and not just a craft, but maybe kind of a bioorganism up there. Who knows? I'm very open to those possibilities. But anyway, this just morphs and changes and starts to look really strange. So now we're looking at another view from Sugar Seas' filter. Hold on one more second, sorry. Okay, I'm back. So Sugar Sue's kind of inverted the scene, which is really cool. Again, I don't have this filter, so it's fun to work on this. Now, what gets exciting on this particular view is not only do we see this weird tower cloud enveloped in this like plasma, and this weird outcropping here, maybe companion craft at B and E, but now we see one also at A, and something else is happening back here at C. And look at F, it looks like something flew in here, and that's a vapor trail, and it's lodged in this part of the plasma. So there's so much going on in here. So with enhancement, we see A, again, it's more or less parallel, straight lines. So these are, I'm calling, companion craft, or craft that just happen to be moving along with this thing, this system. And then back in here, it's really dark. So I think something is also being veiled behind a thicker haze, and we're not going to get at what that is. There's also interesting little bursts of like bright indigo and colors that aren't happening anywhere else in the scene. This looks like heavy plasma starting to like come in over this thing. I'm not sure why all of this is dark now. That's pretty intriguing, but to me that still means there's some kind of mass happening in this overall thing, where we don't see that at the perimeter. Okay, we're going to keep going. So now I'm going to keep playing with the levels of the contrast and the brightness and get to the essence of what's going on in the core of this thing, the overall kind of funnel or wedge-shaped cloud, puddle cloud. And look what's interesting here. If you look here, it has a right angle to it. So if you follow, it's a straight line. If you imagine something passing behind this black blob, there's a straight line, and then it has a point to it at the end. So I think this is happening beyond whatever's happening in front, but that's like a perfect pencil shape. And then look at this, again, right angles of whatever's happening right in here. So really big mysteries going on, but I got to say it's got to be tech of some kind, cloaking craft or cloaking objects for sure. And again, we have this little mystery thing going on down here that look like it could be a bioorganism. And again, that straight line is happening over here. Okay, now we're going to look at C, and some of these are the same objects that you've seen before, but I've just lettered them on some of these different views. So, this may have been F in another scene, E in another scene. In this particular capture, I'm just calling it C. So that's our parallel straight object once again. Now in this view, in this part of the video, as time was moving along, we start to see this bright kind of curve attached to this thing. So again, it looks like an object that kind of, blew out of this bigger cloud system, came out, and that's like the vapor trail. So I thought, let's take a look at that in more detail. And this is what it looks like. So there's a huge flash coming behind it, and it's still staying pretty solid. And actually, you need to see it on a bigger screen, but I'm just noticing now, there's a circle here and a circle here, like the end of a pipe. And they are regular, regularly spaced, symmetrical. If this is kind of, we're looking at the front or side of a craft, it's pretty interesting. I think this is maybe the front view, and this is kind of a side moving away from us now that I'm looking at it. Anyway, this was fascinating that we have a burst of energy happening behind this thing. So here we go, looking at it with a little more different color saturation. We see it starts to get a little more golden back here. So I thought, okay, let's keep working on it. Let's see what we have. I took away all color because sometimes it helps the brain to eye connection to see things in a different way when we remove the color. And here we do see, hot spots, which imply that that's cloaking craft or energy bursts happening. And then, we're going to zoom in on this area even more. And look what we start to see. We have what I'm going to call the craft or object here. But look at this. This is a perfect curve. This is a rim to something, and it's symmetrical over here, and there's a straight line at the bottom. So what the heck are we dealing with? That is structure. That's nothing bitmappy. This is a curve. Bitmappy, we start to see vertical and horizontal stuff. This is a curve breaking that. And I'm just calling it flash of light behind the craft, object created by lamp tech, or is it a portal? Did this thing fly out of a portal? Or is this just like tech hanger, and this is the boost of energy that it needs to get out of there? So many questions. See what you think. Now with a little more enhancement, you see the white rim here and the white rim here. So we're absolutely dealing with the edges of an opening that are very rigid, and it's tech. And then, because these are white and this is like golden, and everything else, goes into the red in this, particular enhancement. So your guess is as good as mine. Again, I'm always happy to and curious to see what other people are thinking. If you want to leave a comment in the comment section below. Okay, now this was another screenshot of what Sugar Seas was capturing. And this was in the center of the cloud system off to the left-hand side. And so she was just noticing some kind of darker moments happening in there. So I thought, let me just see if I can, find anything else in there. And so with a little enhancement, we see B.1. Look how flat straight that is. So that's an object. Looks like it has plasma at the end of it over here. And then I'm not sure what's happening here, this overall object. I've broken it up into C and D just because in the next generation here of the enhancements, you'll see it looks a little more like it could be two pieces. This is looking more roundish, and this has an edge to it. This looks like a triangular form. But this could all be, this darker part could all be one bigger form, which is plasma coming over it, funky and weird. So, but regardless, this is like, again, we've got our right angles on this tab sticking up down here. So with enhancement, again, we've got a very clear straight rod or cylindrical form here at B.2. Is it a craft? Is it instrumentation? I don't know. Some kind of object that isn't a cloud, I'll tell you that. And it's not any normal human conventional like plane, drone, and things of that nature. But again, here's this darker object, and this one's still a bit of an enigma. I'm not sure what to make of it, other than, we got weird things, very rectilinear here, and bulbous like circular here, and more triangular over here. It's just weird, and the color signatures as well. All right, well, that's it as far as the analysis, the deeper dive on Sugar Seas' cloud. Again, thank you, Sugar Seas. Sorry if this was a really long, drawn-out version. I am recording late night. I probably shouldn't have, but it's the only little window of time I have to do it. So I hope all of you could bear with me on it. And this is just the photo of the day and the close of the show here. Thanks for tuning in here a while. And I say tuning in a little tongue-in-cheek because this is Bluestone coming from the Preseli Mountains in western Wales. And the Bluestone apparently is used in I think it's the inner circle of Stonehenge. And the properties of this are really amazing when you look into it, the metaphysical properties. And it's also, I found by accident, a very powerful ancestral stone that has very powerful messages, and you will have extremely powerful dreams that will probably tie you to some kind of ancestral message, especially if you have an affinity, if something draws you to the UK, anywhere in the UK, England, Scotland, or even Ireland, up in that northern region. And of course Wales. And so I just found by accident once, I put a palm stone version of this. These are little pendants and just beaded bracelets. I couldn't find my palm stone to put in the photo here, but it's a little bit of a bigger piece that fits in the palm. And I just threw it on a nightstand, didn't really think anything about it. I just wanted to have a piece of it to remind me of Stonehenge. I had been there many years back. And anyway, I had one of the most vivid dreams of my entire life. I felt like I was actually in a certain place. I can't give the detail on that right now because the nature of it is private, but the place, I was there. I mean, I could touch things, see things. It was pretty incredible. I've never had a dream like that since. And I gave a piece to a friend who actually, I kind of said, hey, this comes, it's the stone from Stonehenge type of thing, and not from actual Stonehenge, but, used there. And, but, kind of beware, I had an extremely powerful dream. I don't know if it'll happen for you too. And sure enough, my friend took it. Not only did my friend have a powerful dream, but my friend took it to a parent's house who had no idea the stone was in the house, and the parent was sleeping in a room upstairs above my friend. And the parent came out the next morning and said, did you have any strange or really strong dreams last night? So the stone actually worked the floor above. So just saying this, if you ever get your hands on it, I didn't even intentionally or consciously use this stone. I didn't even know it could do that. I just put it on my nightstand. So if you have it, especially anywhere near your head, I think, like on a pillow or in the nightstand, you'll probably have something pretty powerful happen. But be advised, it apparently can happen through an entire house. So that's just a little side note there. So anyway, thanks so much for being here. Again, thank you, Sugar C. Shout out to you. Appreciate you. And everyone for being here. And do go check out her channel as well. So as always, tremendous peace and love to you. Lavender Sky Panther. Bye.